Maggie, you want to be on camera? You want to say which books you refuse to read? Huh? Are you unsure? Okay, too much pressure. She'll give you her anti-list soon. Hi everyone, my name is Rochelle and welcome back to my channel, Good Morning Dreamer. Today we're going to be doing the Anti TBR tag, but we're going to be doing this with a twist. And I was tagged by Curious Cat to go and do this, and at first I was a little bit back and forth because personally for myself, and this is nothing against anyone that has done this tag, but I kind of feel like it's a little bit negative in a way. Like, I know everyone has their own taste in books, and you know, people aren't going to necessarily enjoy the same thing. So I kind of changed things up a little bit in some of my answers. So just to kind of give a little bit of some information, I'm more of a mood reader, and I tend to go between different book genres that I enjoy reading. And when I was younger, I enjoyed reading certain types of genres a lot more than I do now. And so I feel like as a mood reader, you know, as you get older, your tastes in books might change. And so with some of these answers, they might be for the time being, but not necessarily a hard no, if that makes sense. So just because I'm saying right now I'm not really interested in reading some of these books, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, maybe 5 years from now I might decide to pick them up then. So that's kind of what I mean by a twist. So this is the anti TBR tag for a mood reader. So yeah, with that being said, let us get started with the very first question. So a popular book that everyone loves that you have absolutely no interest in reading. I had to kind of go through things a few times because I wasn't quite sure if there was one that I was like a hard no against. When it kind of came to this, I wanted one that was definitely a no and just not a okay, just for now type of book. So I went with Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. I know a lot of people really do like this book, but based off of some of the triggers and just some of the things involved in this book, I feel like it's really not for me. And you know, that's totally fine if this was a book that you absolutely love. But this is probably one that I will pass on potentially reading, of course, now or anytime in the future. So then the next question is a classic book or author you don't have any interest in reading. And so this kind of was like a no-brainer. So I'm absolutely terrified of sharks. I watched a shark movie when I was growing up. I think I was like 5. It was at one of my birthday parties, and I was playing with my friends, saw something happen on the TV where the shark jumped out of the water and grabbed someone, and I decided I was going to go and march my little body over to the couch and sit down and watch the movie. And since then, I have been absolutely terrified by sharks. And so anything that has like sharks in it or books, especially if it's movies, I'll like hide if I can, but I won't watch a movie that's solely focused on sharks. If it's a movie that has piranhas or crocodiles or anything like that, totally fine, but sharks, no. So you might have guessed it, the book I will absolutely refuse to read is Jaws. And I mean, this is a little bit of Rochelle lore, but I once had a date. This was someone years ago before I even met my fiance, and we were going to watch a movie and he chose Jaws, and I actually kicked him out of my apartment. He brought Krispy Kreme donuts, he brought some chai tea to drink, and I kicked him out. I was like, here's your donuts. I forgot to give him back the coffee, but I was like, here's your donuts, get out of here. I'm not gonna watch a shark movie. So yeah, Jaws would definitely be the one that I'm like, absolutely not. That will never happen. So any shark related books that you want me to read, I'm sorry, but I can't do it. I have too vivid of imagination, and I will probably not sleep for weeks if I put myself through that. So then third question is an author you have absolutely no interest in reading. And this one is going to be like a temporary one, and then I'll give you my for sure one. So temporary one, I feel just because, and this is no hate or anything like that, but you know, sometimes when you get the same recommendations over and over and over, and you just kind of feel like, okay, no, I'm not going to read those books. I'm not going to do it. That's kind of how I'm feeling with Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez. And I'm sure I would absolutely love their books, even though I'm not a huge romance person. I do actually want to read just for the summer. But it's kind of gotten to the point where I just feel like everywhere I turn, people are talking about those books. And I'm just to the point where I'm like, no, I'm not going to read them. But like I said, that's just probably for the time being. I'll probably read these books within a year or two. So not like a solid anti-read, but just time being, temporary. So probably the one for sure that I would not read is probably H.D. Carlton. And I originally didn't even think about having this author on my anti list, but just seeing some of the books that they have, I'm kind of like, okay, maybe this author isn't for me. One of the books that they wrote, aside from Haunting Adeline, is called Does It Hurt? And I found out about this book from Jan Agaton's channel, and I didn't know that it was by the same author. And when I was looking through their lists, I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, I don't want to read this book. Not only did Jan really not like it, but it also has a spicy sex scene involving sharks. So I think it's safe to say that this author is probably not for me. And if, you know, this is one of your favorite authors, I'm so sorry. It's just some of the things that they write about, not just sharks, but just some of the triggers are triggers that I personally can't read. So the next one is an author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. So this, like I said, is maybe a temporary thing, because I know a lot of people here on Booktube that have read some books by authors and they're like, no, I'm not going to continue reading their books. But then they decide to give them another chance and then find that that book is actually one of their favorites. So that's why I don't really want to omit or, you know, put a hard no on this author. But I will go and say that this author, I think it's Cherie LePena. I've read a few different books by this author, such as The Unwanted Guest and The Couple Next Door. And I love thrillers. I love mysteries. But to be honest, if you asked me about what those books were talking about or what the premise was, I can't remember. And when I rate my books, usually if I rate them like between a 4 or a 5 star, those are books that I think about constantly and I can constantly remember. I can rave about them. But if I can't, then they tend to get a lower rating from me. And so with those books, I just remember after I finished them, I wasn't really wowed. And this is another book that I have by that author that I actually haven't read yet. And I don't necessarily know if I want to unhaul it, but just to go and answer that question, this is an author that I'm like, I don't know if I'll continue reading books by them, but at the same time, I don't want to go and say like, oh, I'm never going to read books by this author, because there might be some that they eventually release where I'm intrigued. And I did purchase this book a while back, and I just feel like I need to read it in order to know whether or not I want to unhaul this one as well. So hopefully that makes sense and you understand where I'm coming from with that. One is a genre you have no interest in, or a genre you have tried to get into and couldn't. So when I was younger, I did really enjoy, I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily enjoy, but I did read some books that had erotic or smut or, you know, spiciness, whatever you'd like to go and call it. And at this point in my life, I'm just not really in the place where I enjoy reading stuff like that. Like if I'm gonna read something that has a romance involved in it, I'd like an actual story. I don't want to constantly be in these open bedroom scenes where you're just kind of like a fly on the wall knowing everything that's going on in an intimate situation between these characters. So yeah, like I will read romance. It's not one of my ideal genres, but I prefer to read romance books that have more of a plot line and have representation in them and things like that. So yeah, I'm just not really in a place where I really want to read those types of books anymore. But a hard no for me is probably certain dark romance books. I've seen like some discussions on Book Talk specifically where people are talking about problems with like book talkers. I don't know if necessarily that includes booktubers, but with people almost romanticizing real life people that are connected to like situations of abuse or SA. And if books have that type of stuff, those are triggers for me and not things that I personally feel comfortable with reading. However, if it was something where it's a survivor story or psychological thriller or crime type of thing, like let's think Law and Order SVU, those types of things I can handle because it's like someone is trying to help and bring this crime to justice, if that makes sense. So those types of things I can read, but if you're romanticizing SA, abuse, things like that, those really aren't for me and not something I will ever gravitate towards reading. So that will definitely be a hard no from me, potentially, if the dark romance has that. I don't know if all dark romance books have those types of things involved, but if it is a book that has that, it probably won't be one that you'll see me reading on my channel. So this one I'm kind of iffy. I'm not 100% sure if this book would count, but since I've mentioned it a few times in some of my videos where I'm like, should I finish reading it? I was disappointed by this. I would probably say that for this question, which is a book you've bought but will never read, and then it says this can be a book you have unhauled or returned to the library unread. So this book doesn't necessarily count as being unread, but it does count as being DNF'd, and that would be The Troop by Nick Cutter. And I've mentioned in my most recent video where I was very conflicted about whether or not I wanted to finish reading this book. It made me sick to my stomach, but I'm very like back and forth through it, but I think if anything, this book would probably be the one that fits for this question. The next question is a series you have no interest in reading or a series you started and DNF'd. So this of course is going to go in the category of something that I was interested in more when I was younger, but now that I'm older, it's just not a genre or a type of series that I really gravitate towards. And so that would probably be this series. So the first book is Night Mist, and it's an indigo court novel by Yasmin Gailnor. And it's fantasy. It has a lot of, I guess, like smut, lots of spiciness. I feel like every other page had a lot of these spicy moments. And like I said, when I was younger, I really did enjoy reading these books. I was very intrigued. I was interested. But now that I'm older, I'm just not really in the place where I'm enjoying these types of books. So I don't want to say the entire series, but I have at least the first 3 or 4. And I know I haven't read the last, or not the last, 2 of the other books that I have. So for now, this series I'll probably still keep on my shelf, but I don't really feel like I'll be reading this anytime soon. The last question is a new release you have no interest in reading. And so this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier with just those books that so many people talk about and you just hear them constantly and you're like, no, I don't want to read them. So the first one that came to my mind was Funny Story by Emily Henry. And who knows, maybe a few years from now I will read the book. But for now, this book isn't really one that's high on my list to read anytime soon. So yeah, I felt like that one fit really well. But yeah, so that is my answer for all the questions in this list. I hope this is good enough for this tag. Like I said, I didn't really like the idea of having like these permanent, like an entire list of permanent, like I will not read, I refuse to do this. Just more so, I'm a mood reader, and you know, some of these books are definitely ones that I will probably never read because of certain triggers and certain things that just don't align well with the things that I go out of my way to read. Whereas some of the other ones, it's like, well, I'm just not in the mood for them right now, but who's to say that won't change in the future? So some of the people that I would like to actually go and tag in this, and also with this, I don't want to like anyone that I'm listing here to feel obligated to go and do this tag. I know some people do enjoy doing tags and other people not so much. So if anything, just look at this as a way of me just going and shouting out some people that I've met during my time in Booktube, and just want to pass them some love because they've all been so sweet and kind, and I really enjoy talking to them either through the comments or watching their videos. Alright, so the first one I'm gonna go and mention is Asha Nyla Reads. And I really love a lot of the videos that she does. She does a lot of books that have different sorts of representation in them, does a lot of different book challenges, and she also recently decided that she's no longer going to put together a TBR and feel that she's restricted to a list of books she's going to read for each month, and instead is just going to be a mood reader and stick to the things that feel more right for her when it comes to what book she decides to pick up. And then the next one I'm going to suggest is Becca, aka Gemini Pages. I really enjoy watching Becca's videos and seeing her daily vlog videos where she's doing some reading, maybe a little bit of gaming, and also book journaling using her iPad. I just really enjoy her vibes, and I am kind of curious to see what book she would list as like these are no-goes for me. All right, and then the next person I want to go and tag would be Maddie, and her account is This Bookish Cottage. Maddie currently lives on a boat and goes and reads a lot of different books while also doing videos where she'll go and summarize a book that she read while also going and baking some tasty treats. I really like Maddie's energy, and I just find it really interesting to see how she's able to read and do things while also living on a boat at the same time. I'd like to tag would actually be Steph Morgan, and she actually tagged me in another Booktube tag that I will probably be filming for hopefully next week or so. But yeah, her account is Steph Morgan, and she reads a lot of gothic books currently and also is working on writing her own book as well. I really love looking at some of the books that she recommends, especially since they're usually some that I've never heard of or have not been on my radar. And so it's always really refreshing to watch those channels where you just learn about books that you wouldn't authentically find on your own. Hi, so this is me again. I just realized that I forgot to tag one other person in this because my brain was just kind of all over the place. But I would also like to tag Once Upon a Bookish Steph. Steph has been such a sweetheart. She comments on every single one of my videos and has become one of my book besties, which she actually referred to me in one of her latest videos, which was so sweet. But I absolutely adore her, and she has some really amazing videos. She was on Booktube previously, but came back, and I'm so excited because I never knew of her channel before, and so getting to see her videos now. She has an evil Disney villain book TBR game challenge thing, and I adore it. So I wanted to make sure I included her as well, but that is all. And so yeah, I think those are the people that I'm tagging. But like I said, please do not feel required to go and do this tag. If anything, I just feel like shouting you out because I really love enjoying all of your channels and really enjoy getting to talk to you through comments, whether they're on YouTube or Instagram. So yeah, just wanted to share my love that way. And speaking of love, I also want to say thank you so much, everyone. We have gotten past 400 subscribers, which is just holy crap. It is so amazing and just makes my little bookworm heart just overflow with happiness. I was talking about this with my partner slash fiance Charles, and you know, he's really mentioned how much being on Booktube has really changed my energy. I just seem a lot more positive. A few years ago I was trying to do Twitch, and Although I do love playing video games and doing cozy gaming, something about this space didn't really fit me 100%, and I just felt a lot of pressure, and I think a lot of the pressure was coming from myself, whereas, you know, posting videos here on Booktube, it just feels a lot more authentic for me and just feels more welcoming and more of the energy that I was looking for, if that makes sense. And that's not anything to say I don't like Twitch. I do love Twitch. I have some of my best friends through Twitch, and I'm gonna be meeting them soon in person. But yeah, there's just something about Booktube that just feels right, and I'm just over the moon with happiness getting to be in this space and getting to connect and share my love of books with other people. It's so much fun. So yeah, just wanted to go and share my appreciation there. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you kind of have similar feelings about some of the books I mentioned, or, you know, aren't necessarily drawn to certain genres because of similar reasons, I'd love to know about it in the comments below. Or if you just want to talk about some books that you'd like to recommend based off of some of the things I mentioned that you think I would like, I'd love to hear them as well. So please like, subscribe, comment, just, you know, share whatever you want to share. I try my best to respond back to any comment, usually within 1 to 2 days, depending on the spoons that I have available. But yeah, so I'm gonna wrap it up here and just leave you all with, you are worthy and capable of amazing things. I love you all and can't wait to talk to you all soon. Bye everyone. Today we are going to be doing the anti Hi baby girl. Hi. We have a nuggies.
Lazy Sunday mornings, hiding under covers. I don't mind staying in with you. Play your favorite movie, laying right beside me. I don't mind when it's just us two.